is 10 o'clock and I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. The chair notes that there is a quorum present. We'll do the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, 2.0 is additions and revisions to the agenda. Do you guys have anything?
I do not.
Yeah, actually I do. I had a businessman call me yesterday morning, and I'd like to have a little bit of a discussion about the bidding process to include local businesses in Gilliam County expenditures.
Okay. That under, we'll do make that 6.12. We've got quite an agenda. Okay, and we'll call it discuss bidding process to include local businesses. Is that,
Yeah.
we capture that? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Okay. Let's go into correspondence and public comment. Let's start with public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give a name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. As usual, I will just reinforce that we are pretty informal here, and so if folks want to interject as we go through, we all welcome that as well. So you don't have to just get it in during this first initial period. But does anybody have a public comment initially? If you are dialing in, it's *6 to unmute yourself, or the lower left-hand side of your Zoom screen. I don't see anybody. So we'll move into correspondence. I have a couple of things that I want to add. First, I just wanted to, there is a report from Mary at the library. She has to submit Oregon Public Library statistical report, just talking about all kinds of things, volunteer hours, paid staff, where revenue comes from, number of books that are being loaned and circulated, all that kind of stuff. So for anybody that is interested in that, it's part of the court packet. So those are always online. Let me see the next thing. There is also an email from Les Ruark that came in on Friday regarding the agenda items. Wait, is that Friday? Yeah, maybe.
Yes, last Friday.
Yeah, last Friday. That, and this is regarding our consideration of reclassifying the treasurer's position over and what would happen basically with the website postings and things like that. Les is obviously wanting to make sure that we're still having those agenda support items be posted in a timely manner. So if anybody wants to read the whole email, that's online as well. And then we also had two, let me just find them really quick, two last minute letters that just came in the 9 o'clock hour, but are pertinent today. And so I will, they are from employees, and both of them asked me to read them out loud. So I am going to do that. Let me see here. And commissioners, I think Teresa just handed you a copy of them. The first one says, okay. I would like to start off by saying I'm very saddened by Lisa's departure from Gilliam County and very disappointed in some folks' behavior about it. Lisa has been such an asset to not only the Gilliam County employees and elected officials, but to the residents of Gilliam County. I think we all need to remember we have jobs because of them. We are here to serve them, and Lisa always made sure that we as county employees were doing the best we could for the people of Gilliam County. She's been the utmost knowledgeable, professional, kind, organized, reasonable, and dedicated person I have ever worked beside. Lisa has been a leader that Gilliam County needed. I mean, no disrespect when I say the county needs to really make a plan on how her shoes will be filled, as she wore so many hats and did so much. I'm worried that things she built up will start to fall apart. All of the hard work she put into trying to better our county should not go unrecognized. She is a huge reason things have gotten done behind the scenes. There are so many departments that have excelled with her direction. I can personally say the transportation department would not be what it is today without her guidance and hard work. She has gotten the department back on track, and let me tell you, she had to bring it pretty far to do so. The transportation department needs Lisa to continue to do the reports and help transition them over while I'm out. The department depends on it. The clients depend on it. If she isn't able to assist us while I'm out on maternity leave, we're going to be in a hole that we have to dig out of again. Transportation is already short-staffed. Please don't make it harder on the department by not allowing her to continue to assist the program for a transition period. Lisa has been the realist person who serves the county, and I'm going to miss her. Shame on those who have treated her so poorly and not given her the time of day simply because their ego has stood in the way. You all had better step it up around without her here to carry your weight. I wish you well on your adventures, Lisa. The transportation department will truly miss you. Sincerely, Shania Drink Wine. So that one will be for folks in the public who would like to go back and read that. That will be online once we sort of get through with the meeting and have a chance to have Kelly add that. The other one comes, let me open this one. Let's see. Okay, this one says, I just want to say that I have appreciated all of your help over the last couple of years to push me to become a better person and employee. You have always been there cheering me on to do great things. I remember when you first came, I was beginning to wonder if I would survive all of the things you wanted from me, like my week, the yellow binder, visas, and timesheets turned in on a timely manner. Adobe, which I have to say is still this is still a struggle, but it's been a good deterrent to using a county visa, because the question goes through my mind, do I really want to fill out an Adobe visa request? Our monthly meetings that I have had with you to tell you that I am currently doing and what my future goals are. You gave me goals to work towards, and the feeling like someone really took an interest in and appreciated everything that was and is being done. Then COVID-19 hit and our whole world was turned upside down. What we knew as normal may never be normal again. We have had to make changes to how things are being done, from meal sites to transportation, in which you have always supported. When you moved into our office for a couple of months, I appreciate the hard work that you have done to pick up the pieces of the transportation program. You came in and learned a program that you didn't have to. You could have washed your hands of it, but didn't, and for that, I thank you. It has been great working with you to help us organize all parts of the program, and I hope that the county court will allow you to continue to help us get the reporting done for the grants that fund this program. I would also like to say I'm very appalled by some elected officials, employees, and commissioners' conduct through all of this. Shame on you. I can never thank you enough for all you have done for Gilliam County. Best of wishes with your retirement, as you have always reminded me things will be okay. Sabrina Wagner, Senior Services Coordinator and Dispatcher. So again, that one will also be made part of the record, which is available under the court's meeting packet. Okay. I think that is all I have under correspondence. So let's go into consent agenda. Man, we have a full house while I was reading, everybody. Hey guys.
Do you have any questions
On the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of November 3rd, 2021 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of November 3rd housing work session minutes, consider approval of August through December bills pending review, and consider approval of Motorola Solutions bid for reprogramming of law enforcement / emergency services radios for interoperability with Morrow County. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now, on to 5.1. Consider second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2021-06, providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Comprehensive Plan map, and zoning and land development ordinance map by listing site number 650 Mayville Aggregate Site as a Goal 5 protected site in the comprehensive plan inventory and on the comprehensive plan map, and apply significant resource combining zone on the zoning map to the site and 1,500-foot impact area. Woo! Okay, so as you will recall, during our last meeting, we held a public hearing on this and went forward with the first reading. In order to officially adopt the ordinance, we would need to do a second reading and final adoption. And so I would need motions to have the second reading and to adopt. Should the
I
board.
move to have the second reading and ordinance number 2021-06 by title only.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we have the second reading of ordinance number 2021-06 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let me find it. Make sure it's in here. Hold on 1 second. I just have to. Nope, I got it. In the county court for the state of Oregon in and for the county of Gilliam, ordinance number 2021-06, in the matter of an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Comprehensive Plan map and zoning and land development ordinance map by listing site number 650 Mayville Aggregate Site as a Goal 5 protected site in the comprehensive plan inventory and on the comprehensive plan map, and apply the significant resource combining zone on the zoning map to the site and 1,500-foot impact area.
I move to accept the second reading of ordinance number 2021-06 by title only and to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the second reading of ordinance number 2021-06 by title only and to adopt the ordinance. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to 5.2, update and possible action on Gilliam County Health transition process. So to recap, during our last meeting, this court gave me the go-ahead to begin the process of formally withdrawing from North Central Public Health and beginning the transition process to bringing public health back to Gilliam County. There has been a little bit of back and forth in terms of the timing of this. When I first read the IGA, it appeared that we would have to withdraw at the end of the calendar year. Since then, my understanding is when North Central Public Health District met with their legal counsel present, their legal counsel advised that that could actually still happen on the first of the fiscal year.
Correct.
July 1. So based on that, I sent direction over to our legal counsel asking what is the process for withdrawing, whether we need to do some kind of a court order or however to undo that ordinance. She just got back to me yesterday, I think, and so I have not had a chance to review the documents that she is suggesting we do, but she did raise a concern that because the IGA is not with North Central Public Health, it is with Wheeler and Sherman County. And so she wanted assurances from Wheeler and Sherman County that they would not object to us leaving on the first.
Wasco and Sherman.
Wasco and Sherman County. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't
Sorry
think,
about that.
I don't think they will. That should be easy to get.
Yeah, so my intention is to go back to Judge Jabolskis and I don't know who's the chair over in Wasco County right now. If that's
It's kept up.
Kathy's taking over next year, I think. It might be Hagee.
Oh, okay.
So I can reach out to Commissioner Hagee and see if they would have any objections to that. And so for now,
I'm not going to because what's the other commissioner's name?
Kramer.
Kramer and Hagee talked to me the other day.
And
And they both think it's a really good idea.
I think they want their
They
own
want
too.
out too.
So that was the only thing that our legal counsel flagged that she wanted before we move forward on saying this is the day we're leaving, that we just have assurances from the other two governing bodies that they are not going to change their mind.
And then the timeline is they have to be notified by December 30th.
Correct. Yeah, so the plan would be that during our next meeting, we will formally take up the legal documents. I'll see if I can get the assurances from the two other governing bodies, if they can even just send me a letter that says they're fine with that. And then OHA has been informally notified, so they know that we're getting ready to leave, and they've been crunching numbers on what our contribution, that portion would look like, all of that kind of stuff. So they are prepared. I mean, they know that it's coming. It's just our legal counsel was nervous that it's actually not North Central Public Health that can tell us when we can leave. It's the other two governing bodies. So that's the only update I have for now. But I will have documents for the next meeting. We'll need to approve, I think, letters and possibly a resolution dissolving our ordinance that put us into the district. Questions on that?
Be interesting to see what they do with the board of directors, because one of the complaints they've got is from Wasco County is that they contribute 90% or 80%, whatever it is, and they don't have 80% say on the board.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. And I think there's been some discussion, from what I understand, of whether Wasco County might want to not have a district and just have their public health in-house. So this might be pushing that as well. The other piece that I'm anticipating will come that we need to get in place is we will need to get permission from OHA to have the very, very part-time employee that we discussed, the 0.1. And so I'm anticipating and hoping I will be able to get that before us for the next meeting as well, so that we can get that rolling.
That was supposedly kind of an unusual setup with Grant County, so there might be consideration there with them on that.
Yeah. Yeah, although they allowed Union County to do it too. So I think there is some precedence. I mean, they didn't seem like they granted it to the other two counties that have requested it. So I think as long as we're keeping sort of a similar setup to what has already been, as long as we're not forging new territory, I didn't get the sense that it would be a major stumbling block from OHA. That's what I know so far.
okay.
Questions on that one? Yes, we're making some progress. Any questions on that? Anything, Holly, you want to add?
No, not unless anybody has any questions about it.
Go forward.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. We'll move into new business 6.1, which is waste management third quarter report. Leah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I have kind of a long report here today. We'll kind of move through it pretty quickly. I know you guys have a big agenda, to say the least.
We put you at the front, though,
Yeah.
because I have to sit through 12 agenda items.
Exactly. And we're just going to fumble around here for a minute.
Just throw them this way. We'll see what we can catch.
Okay. So this is the third quarter report and the 2021 year-to-date report. So the Columbia Ridge volumes are down about 21% for quarter three. And year to date, we're down about 1.7%. It's kind of hard to figure out what's going on here, but I think a lot of it has been project-based, gondola, dirt, remediation projects, construction projects. Those things seem to be down. And I think it's still sort of a carryover from the COVID, with a lot of these companies being shut down during COVID and then not being able to staff back up and continue. So I think
The weather tends in the Seattle area tends to drive that as well.
It
too.
does.
So it's been wet up there.
starts
too.
raining and those projects kind of get kibosh because of the rain.
Are you thinking with the big infrastructure bill that was passed that you might see some of those volumes, as communities start sort of, I'm assuming they'll be potentially tearing down buildings or redoing things with the infrastructure money?
I think we will see an uptick when that starts. But once again, I think it goes back to the problem with the
Labor force.
labor force. I mean, that is just really driving a lot of what's going on. People just can't staff to be able to, and we're experiencing that big time with being able to keep enough staff to continue to run 2 shifts at Columbia Ridge and 1 shift at Waste. So it's just we have so many jobs posted, and it's just really, really difficult. The host fees paid to Gilliam County for Q3 for $406,000. Year to date, it's $3,980,000. Columbia Ridge has had no significant incidents. It's been really pretty good. They did the 100 days of summer catered dinners for both facilities for the employees for doing good with our safety record this year. Columbia Ridge construction projects, we've got a number of things going on. We have completed construction of our 3rd leachate impoundment, and CQA has been submitted to the agency. We can't put leachate into it until I get approval on the CQA report. We're doing excavation on cell 16 that will tie right into 15 and continue up into the existing upper level of the landfill currently. And we've added a number of landfill gas wells. Those have been completed, and we're tying those all into the system so that they'll be going to WMRE and flaring off whatever is left over. We've also added a new security camera system. It's all installed. We have access to those security cameras. There has been a little bit of theft that has gone on, and so we've updated our security of both facilities. So that's been pretty positive. Any questions on what's going on there? Questions, guys?
I think so.
Chemical waste management, they actually have done pretty well this year. They are up about 4%. Total year to date, they're up about 17%. So there have been some remediation projects. We had a large stabilization project that was coming in this past month. And so that has really kind of pushed them up a little bit. Their host fees paid in January were $17,000. Host fees paid to date were $55,000 to the county. No significant injuries at Chem Waste this past quarter either. Chem Waste projects. So the portal installation, which was the final part of our corrective action through Oregon Department of Energy, has been completed. And this is kind of a picture of what it looks like. This portal monitor is where all of any incoming traffic coming into the facility goes through that portal monitor. So this is a very sensitive piece of equipment, and it is reading the radiation counts on the trucks that are passing through there. We have our measure set very low. It's set to 2 times background, and our background runs just a bit over 2 microcuries per hour. So it's pretty sensitive. We get a lot of alarms. When there is an alarm, it doesn't really mean that anything dangerous or critical is going off. It just means that we need to investigate what's on that truck further. So we'll ask them to go back through that portal monitor again. We'll run them around. We'll bring them back through. If they alarm again, then we'll pull them to the side. We will talk to the driver. Oftentimes what happens is that driver may have had some sort of a medical procedure done, and it will actually be the driver.
Just have the driver walk through.
Yeah, just get him over here.
Yeah.
Way. So yeah, so we do that process, and then we also bring out our handheld instruments, which we have instruments now, which will tell us which nuclides it is that are present and what the levels are on those. If that happens, we also start through the process of sampling that load, parking that load, and possibly putting it through the pathway exemption process. That's a very long procedure. It takes 5 to 6 weeks to get through it with the sampling, the analysis that has to be ran. We have several waste streams that have already completed a pathway exemption because there are industrial waste streams that will trigger this. But they're not radioactive necessarily. They're naturally occurring radioactive material. So we are working our way through that process. It's been interesting, but yeah, so that is, we are fully in compliance with the corrective action with the installation. And that's been in there since, I think we got it in there and started using it in August. Prior to that, everything was being monitored via handheld monitoring. Any questions on that? Questions for you? The Part B renewal is progressing. Part of the renewal we've changed up a little bit is going through a rezoning project to add additional permitted areas for landfill development. I've been working with Michelle. We also have a third-party company working on this for us. I actually have a meeting with Michelle this afternoon. And that's been an interesting project also, because what we've discovered is Gilliam County historically has done some transactions with land, and the deeds have been filed, but the lot lines and those types of things haven't completely been filed. I think they were written on a napkin maybe somewhere.
You don't say.
Imagine that.
So part of this process has been making sure that those lot lines are correct and everything is in place prior to doing the rezoning that we're trying to do. So it's become a pretty large project. Class 2 permit modification for the S12 outdoor storage area. This, I think I talked to you about this on a previous meeting. We are permitting an additional outdoor storage area. It will increase our storage capacity by quite a bit. This is kind of being driven by the capacity problems with incinerators nationwide. Incinerators were infected by the COVID pandemic stuff. They lost staff, they were closed down, went to half staff, couldn't staff back up, and they have incinerables that are backlogged. So if you're a generator of a waste stream that requires incineration, you're only allowed to keep that on your facility for 90 days. And then you have to ship it off to a facility that can either process it or store it. A facility like Chem Waste is allowed to store that waste for 1 year, and we have to have it processed, treated, taken care of. So because there is such a backlog, because the incinerators are also out of storage capacity, the state of Oregon is allowing TSDFs like ourselves to store incineration-bound waste streams only for more than 365 days. We have already gotten our permission from Oregon DEQ to do that. So this will create storage to manage those incineration waste streams so that we make sure that they're managed properly. So I think public comment on that ended on November 26th. So it has already been through the public comment period. EPA has 21 days to respond with any comments on that, and then DEQ will make their decision on approval for that. So we've moved through that pretty easily. We have also installed a new camera security system over there and updated our whole security system. And with this new gate system too, that's been an update. There are TV cameras that show the truck going through this portal, show the truck when it gets there. So they're seeing that in the scale house. They're seeing whoever's coming through. So that has been a positive thing too. I talked about the rezoning project. Any questions on any of that stuff?
Have you constructed the storage?
We can't do construction
Can't
until
do
it's
anything
approved.
Until they approve it.
Yeah.
I just wondered if that was part of the approval process,
No.
how you were storing it, or just the idea of what you're going to do and the description of how you would do it is what's being approved.
What is submitted is a red line document on our container storage document, which is part of one of our standalones. Closure was affected, inspections were affected, and the permit itself. So those documents get submitted to DEQ along with design drawings and capacities, volumes, what it's going to look like with groundwater monitoring, all those things.
Okay.
Once that's approved, then we can move dirt. Anything else?
Any questions? Any questions from the public? Anybody in the courtroom? Anybody on Zoom? Again, it's *6 to unmute yourself if you dialed in on your phone, and lower left-hand corner if you're on the Zoom platform. I don't see anybody unmuting.
I would just like to make a comment. I'm very happy that you have cameras.
I bet you are.
A lot
Thanks
of
for the
things
help.
that weren't solved because the camera wasn't working.
I know, yeah.
Sheriff Bedford loves cameras.
There's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think I talked about this briefly at a previous meeting. Washington Water Protection Solutions is developing a process in Hanford for encapsulating low-level radioactive materials. They are doing it's called it's a cold start process to determine if the process that they're going to use is going to work for them. So Waste Management is going to be receiving very large cylinders of molten glass because their idea is to encapsulate this low-level material inside of molten glass. So it can't emit, it can't leach, it can't leave it. If this process goes well and they develop it, then they would start doing that at Hanford, but it would be disposed of at Hanford in their landfill. The waste that Waste Management will be receiving will just be cylinders of molten glass. We're going to have to store them in a method to allow them to cool off because they're going to be of a very high temperature. And once they cool off, they'll go into the landfill. They're going to be non-regulated. There won't be anything in them. It will just be glass. They're trying to decide and develop the process to make sure that the process they're developing is going to work for the way they want it to work. They are predicting that we will start receiving these cylinders sometime in March. So S12 will also be an area where these can be stored. They actually could be stored anywhere on site because they're not regulated and they're not required to be in permitted storage. There's a lot of unknowns. We don't know exactly what the temperatures are going to be, anywhere from 300 to 700 degrees when they arrive on site. We've got some job hazard analysis to do because we'll have special PPE that will need to be done. Special processes. These cylinders weigh 15,000 pounds.
Wow.
They're very large, and it's going to take special cranes and equipment to unload them and place them. And then we will test them with a heat gun because they cannot go into the landfill unless they are less than 171 degrees. So that's sort of a process that we're working through. And I just wanted everybody to be really aware that it is not radioactive waste. They will go through the portal monitor. They will be monitored like anything else that comes through there. And they will be managed exactly in the same fashion. So just make sure everybody is clear on what is going on.
Yeah,
I'm
we are
sure
not
there will
taking
be.
Hanford waste.
No,
I
it is
think the
Washington
key
Water
takeaway.
Protection Solutions.
Yeah, how would those be shipped if you didn't take them?
So those will be shipped on a specially built low boy. I think it's got like 4 axles on the back of it, and it's a very, very big, long low boy. It will only be able to carry 3 of those, and they're specially built metal pallets that they'll be locked into. And then there's a special piece of equipment that Hanford Washington Water Solutions will provide to us that will pick those. So
How come they don't cool them on site for the ship?
they don't have anywhere to set them, is what they're telling us. And they can only ship 3 at a time, and I think they have 2 of these trailers. So we may get 2 loads a day, depending on how, I think when they first start up, we're gonna see maybe a load, and then it'll be a while and we'll see another load, because I think in developing this process, it's gonna take a while for them to get into a flow, so to speak.
Have they estimated total amount, or they still
It's gonna
not
be
sure?
between 300 to 400 cylinders. So we're going to have to be very proactive in monitoring these so we can move them in, cool them off, move them out, So, and we don't want to put anything in any of our permitted storage areas because those are all lined. We don't know if we would melt the liner.
Right.
And we don't want, of course, don't want to put them in the landfill because we don't know. And we have a rule, nothing greater than 171 degrees. So we're sort of bound by all of those things.
Mm.
So we're being very careful with it and we're going to develop some very specific procedures. So, any other questions?
Any other questions for Leah? Commissioners, we're good? Anybody on the public? Anybody on the Zoom? Thanks, Leah.
Thank you, Leah.
Okay, let's move into 6.2, which is consider approval of trainee appraiser, data analyst position description and salary schedule and reclassification of deputy treasurer position. Guys, do you want me to describe what's going on or do you? Okay, you guys are, I'll speak on your behalf. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so as a little bit of background, the appraiser is looking forward to retirement in the upcoming year. And so Chet and Nathan have been kind of kicking around together with me and Lisa what a transition process might look like. And so tentatively, Darlene's plans would be looking at reducing her hours down to a 0.5 FTE July 1 of 2022, with her targeted retirement date to be the end of the year next year. And so what we've been trying to figure out is how we can continue to provide sort of a continuity of services and not have this sort of lag where we don't have an appraiser. And so the recommendation that we came up with is to look at reclassifying Kelly's position as deputy treasurer over to a trainee appraiser slash data analyst. And one of the reasons I think this makes, at least for me, made a lot of sense is that Kelly is already doing tax collection under the treasurer's office. So the idea would be that tax collection would go back to the assessor. Kelly would be doing sort of part-time training, and then that would give her some time with Darlene as well to be able to sort of have a mentor, if you will, as she moves through that process, so that there really is sort of, when Darlene steps out, Kelly is fully trained and ready to assume those responsibilities, obviously assuming that she completes the training and everything else that is required by statute. The other piece of Kelly's current position is the IT coordination. And so you'll see on the next agenda item, what we've come up with is basically bumping up the AgTech contract to allow some more on-site IT services. And so from a budget standpoint, what that would look like is we'd have sort of a little increase in the AgTech budget. And then effective on July 1, the total FTE would go down by 0.5. And then when Darlene retires, we would be down a full FTE. So from a budget perspective, we'd see a little bump, but long-term, we'd be reducing by 1 FTE. And my understanding, and Chet and Nathan can sort of confirm this for me, but the reason we're able to sort of realize the savings is some of the upgrades that they've been doing to their systems, the mapping, that kind of stuff, I think allows for us to sort of, assuming that the IT can be outsourced, economize, if you will, on FTEs. Did I get that? Is there anything you want to add to it?
I don't think so. Just having Darlene transition out, she can help us finish with our conversion. It's not fully complete, and at the same time, take over some of those duties and more in that position. This is the best, most seamless option for the county.
On the tax collection piece, do I remember as well that maybe there might be some cross training a little bit with Jamie? Or not?
For sure. Yeah,
Okay.
all new tax collection.
So we'd have a.
They did tax collection once upon a time. I mean, it's kind of moved back and forth. Because it's really an overlapping duty, even though it's the sheriff.
Gary.
No.
Chris is threatening to walk out.
It's more appointed. So, unfortunately, they're appointed either the treasurer or the,
No, that
Assessors,
retirement
tax
paperwork is gonna be done really quick.
Chris says no.
and it makes the most sense because we have the most hands on either side of it. So we
Mhm.
really can answer the questions more efficient at sheriff's office.
Mhm. So some of the things that are sort of out there pending that we've been talking about, one of them is that Kelly also, as you know, administers our competitive grant program. And so we've been talking about how to absorb that. I think, if I'm not overstepping, Teresa has raised her hand to say that she is willing to accept those for us. So I think that's where that will land. The other piece is the website, to Les's email that I mentioned. The tentative plan for now is for Kelly to continue to do that. But then we would look at reassessing once she's kind of had an opportunity to slide over and see what that workload looks like and things like that. Then I think we may need to reevaluate and see if that's better placed with another staff member that it needs to be reassigned to, just kind of depending on what Kelly finds on the workload and what's feasible. So I just wanted to flag that for now. Les, don't worry, it's not changing. But down the road, we will be probably needing to look at that depending on what Chet and Kelly find when she's kind of over into that position.
And then that leaves the treasurer in his office by himself.
I keep asking
That's
Nathan.
probably for the best.
It's Kelly's mental health, nobody else.
I keep asking Nathan, are you sure? Are you sure you're not gonna need staff? And he assures me he's
No,
got
I
it.
did it before.
He's got it covered. So,
Kind of expressed, one of the commissioners asked me that too, and I expressed, I'm neutral on the idea. I mean, I'm gonna miss Kelly. She does lots of great things in the office, but at the same time, without tax collection, well, get rid of the grant program, because that's something I didn't do before, but I did it all before, so. I don't think it'll be an issue.
Usually when I come, you're in the assessor's office anyway, so.
Right. He has lots of problems.
we should maybe just move you, we'll just move you into Chet's office. Save you the commute.
Take the wall out.
There you go.
So commissioners, if you wanted to move forward with this, this is how it would need to look. I would need an approval for the position description of trainee appraiser, which Chet worked with me and Lisa on to develop. And it is basically taking Darlene's appraiser and then just modifying it to acknowledge that this individual is not currently trained. So is sort of working into that role. And then in addition, I would also need to have you all approve the salary schedule. What we are anticipating is that it would stay the same as the deputy level. So we're not really making any adjustments to costs or anything like that. Kelly would stay in the current step that she's in. And then once Darlene retires, then it would be up to Chet to decide whether he wanted to promote Kelly into the appraiser position. So that's kind of how it would look. The other thing I should note is that the intention is then that the deputy treasurer position would basically fall off, that we would leave that unfilled. So that's where the eventual FTE savings would come from.
Well, that's what the understanding that I might be a part-time person.
No,
I really hadn't in the past, other than.
you just got done saying you could handle it.
Your last chance. Questions or comments, thoughts on the proposal?
I know that there's been a lot of time and thought and energy and collaboration go into it, so I've had some conversations in the process. Yeah, so yeah, but I'm certainly not going to tell the assessor and the treasurer how to do their job. So if they think this works, it works for me.
Then make a motion.
Okay. I will get you today.
Stop talking, start making a motion.
I move to approve the position description for trainee appraiser data analysis. That is right. As presented, and to reclassify the position of deputy treasurer to trainee appraiser data analyst effective immediately and contingent on the completion of all special requirements and licensing needed for the position of appraiser to be met within 12 months of the reclassification.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the position description for trainee appraiser / data analyst as presented, and to reclassify the position of deputy treasurer to trainee appraiser data analyst effective immediately and contingent on the completion of all special requirements and licensing needed for the position of appraiser to be met within 12 months of reclassification. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then the second thing I would need is approval of the salary schedule for the trainee, for the new position that we just created. So Ellen knows is authorized to pay her.
I am moved to approve the salary schedule for the trainee appraiser data analyst position as presented, and to direct the chief of staff to incorporate the position into the salary schedule for represented employees.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the salary schedule for the trainee appraiser data analyst position as presented, and to direct the chief of staff to incorporate the position into the salary schedule for represented employees. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, got that one done. The next one, as I alluded to during the previous discussion, is consider approval of technical services contract increase with Actech Solutions Incorporated. Again, this is taking care of that about roughly 0.5 FTE that Kelly was previously doing for IT. And so I don't know, Kelly, if you want to elaborate on sort of what Actech has recommended and
So.
come on up and see
Yeah,
us.
better.
So our current contract with Actech has them on site for up to 1 day a month to do any on-site repairs they need. Most things can be done remotely and are done remotely. But on occasion, they need to come and actually do some hands-on work. A lot of that hands-on little things, they'll call and walk me through on the phone, or this will require them to come on site more. So Brad, who may or may not be in the meeting, he said he was going to try and
Brad
make it.
B. Would that be him?
Yep, that's Brad.
I'm here.
Hey, Brad.
Brad suggested adding 1 more day a month. So that can be from month to month, maybe 2 people come in and spend a whole day tackling things, or 1 person comes in 1 day, another person comes in another day, just to tackle any hands-on things that need to be met. And emergency services have always been part of our contract too. If we have an emergency, they will come on site to attend to that emergency.
So would the intention be to sort of try out one or the other, either 2 people 1 day or 1 person 2 days, and just kind of?
That would be, I think, a month to month, depending on what's
Their
needed.
staffing,
Yeah.
what we need and what they can do.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Questions, commissioners, on this piece?
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the proposal from Actech Solutions Incorporated for additional technical services in the amount of $13,580 per year.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proposal from Actech Solutions Incorporated for additional technical services in the amount of $13,580 per year. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay.
I have one comment on that. Can we please make sure that we're concise and consistent on the date, maybe that they're here, like, the 3rd Wednesday of the month or something like that, when they're going to be here. And if we're not using her as IT locally, that we know all of their names and their phone numbers, that we can go directly to them. If we're not going through somebody, like we were told in the beginning to go through Kelly to get to them in the beginning or something, because this is going to be, I'm sorry to say this, but IT is a major component to all of our work now. And now that she's being taken out of the picture, it could be a major, major pain in the butt for most of us. And so I think that we need to try and make this as seamless as we can. And we need to have that connection to them as much as we can. It scares me to death, to be honest with you.
That's a tribute to you, Kelly,
right
and the
now-
work that you do.
Because right now, we know when she's in the building and we know when she's not. And so, and we need to be able to contact them, especially when we say emergencies, it seems like we have them and then we don't. I mean, when something goes down, it's, you know, we need them and we need them now. So, you know, just my take on the whole IT situation.
I understand.
Brad, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Give kind
You
of a-
bet. You bet. So we do multiple counties as clients, and we do have a call tree that we can get to you. So we support other sheriff's offices. So if there's an issue, they just go down the call tree if it's in the middle of the night or a weekend or whatever, and they'll hit somebody. Usually it's within 1 or 2 people. And then we can start working on the issue. And if we need to come out, we'll come out no matter what time or whenever, and make sure we get it done.
Thanks, Brad.
You bet.
Chris is going to be your new
So-
best friend, Brad.
There you go. Hey, we like it.
We'll talk about that later. We have a Homeland Security grant that we're trying to get done too, and that she's been in the middle with, so talk to her about
So
that.
in the emergency services part of the original contract, is that a as needed emergency service change the cost? How does that work in the contract? I haven't seen that contract. Understand what I'm saying? If you now, because we don't have Kelly, need to use the emergency services more often, how expensive does that get?
That's a Brad question.
Kelly,
Yeah, I'd ask Brad. It's actually part of your contract. So if you have issues, the only way it wouldn't be part of the contract is if somebody did something malicious to the computer system or something, which we have had happen in the past. So it wasn't anything to do with daily business. It was something malicious. Then that would be something that we would talk to you about. Whether we charge or not, I don't know. It depends on the situation. We've only had that happen, I think, twice in the last 15 years, so I'm not too worried about it. Everything else, we're going to be available during those hours. That's part of our contract. So we'll be here. Like I say, you'll have a call tree. The only other thing I would mention is what we see. A county is like several different distinct entities or businesses, right? They're all different. And so their needs are different and their timing is different. So if we have a month where you need us there twice a month with 2 guys, we're going to do that no matter what it takes to get the job done. That's our goal, is to make sure you're happy and we get the issues taken care of. If we do a set day, which we're not opposed to, because that actually makes it easier for us, but what we find is we usually end up changing that day because of some requirements from other departments. Does that make sense? So we can start out and say, okay, here's a set day. We're going to come on this day or this day. So everybody can schedule, but if they need us before that or after that, we're up for that. And so I think that's kind of a sliding thing that we've experienced over the years, but we're happy to do it any way you folks would like to do it.
And I think the other important point too that I sometimes forget is that for some of those things that you can actually come in remotely through into our computer. So if we're having an issue that's maybe that is causing us to not be able to access files or whatever, you may be able to just help us remotely. And so we wouldn't need you to actually be on site to do that.
Yeah, and we do that in certain instances. I mean, Kelly's been awesome to work with. She really has. But if you have an issue, let's say on a weekend, we had a client where their firewall went down. So we know it's a couple hours to get to you folks. So what we did is we took somebody and just had them unplug one plug out of one firewall and plug it into another firewall until we could get there and take care of the issue. We can walk you through a lot of stuff over the phone. Remote support, I'd say probably 75% of what we do is remote support. So yeah, that works great.
Any other questions, concerns about that, please? Okay. Are we ready to move on?
I believe so.
Okay, 6.4 is consider approval of intergovernmental agreement for temporary juvenile director services with Wheeler County. Let me give you a little bit of background. Back in March, Wheeler County found themselves without a juvenile director. And so Judge Morley reached out to Amy and asked if she would be willing to fill in. And that's pretty common with the juvenile directors. They fill in for each other regularly. And so Amy, bless her heart, said, absolutely, I'll help. With all of the, Leah alluded to this earlier, the labor issues and recruitment, Wheeler County has really, I think, struggled to find the right candidate for their juvenile director position. Obviously, it has a lot of responsibility and they want to make sure it's a good fit working with their kids and families. So Amy, all of this time, has been pulling double duty and being juvenile director for both counties since March 1st of 2021. And so I reached out to Judge Morley, and given that this seems to be they need some more time to complete the recruitment, and asked if he would be willing for them to sign an IGA with us to allow us to recoup some of the costs for Amy's time and to compensate her for the extra time that she has been putting in to help both counties out. So the agreement that is in your packet was drafted, our legal counsel drafted it. It's a 3-month intergovernmental agreement. It's just outlining the partner's responsibilities. One of the reasons I felt it was important was also so that this informal thing didn't just go on indefinitely for Amy. So I wanted to make sure that we're sort of capping it so that Wheeler County has the incentive to go actually recruit a juvenile director. And so it outlines that. It also outlines the compensation that Wheeler County would pass through to us, which I believe they have a state grant that covers personnel costs, which is something they would not be able to recoup. And so I think the intention is they'll recoup that from the state and then pass it through to us to cover this time. This already went before the Wheeler County Court. They approved it and signed it and sent it over to us. So as long as we don't have any concerns about it, my recommendation would be to go ahead and approve it.
The one question I got, and you got to go to 6.5, is there is the salary increase for the bi-county position. When that goes away in 3 months, I go back to the salary wage would go back to where it was before.
Exactly. Yeah, and
When the IGA ends, then.
yeah, when the IGA ends, and you'll see when we get into that, I will be asking the court to approve that retroactively so that Ellen can go back and pay Amy from March to present date.
With the idea that that'll be reimbursed from Wheeler County.
Exactly. Yeah, the Wheeler County costs in here are approximately what she would receive.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for temporary juvenile director services with Wheeler County as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the intergovernmental agreement for temporary juvenile director services with Wheeler County as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so this is related. This is 6.5, which is consider approval of bi-county juvenile director position description and salary schedule and temporary reclassification of juvenile director position. So again, what we would be looking at is doing a very similar process to what we just did with Kelly. We would be looking at doing approval of the position description, temporarily reclassifying the juvenile director over into that position, approving a salary schedule that accompanies that position. And then, as you'll see in the briefing, the idea would be that would be effective through March 2022. And then Amy would revert back to the original pay schedule, the original job description. This was just the only way I could come up with for how to compensate Amy for the additional time. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it, is to be able to make it transparent and clear that we would be compensating her for those extra hours she's putting in for Wheeler County. Questions?
No questions.
Okay.
I move to approve the position description for Bi-County Juvenile Director as presented, and to temporarily reclassify the position of Juvenile Director to Bi-County Juvenile Director effective March 1st, 2021 through March 1st, 2022.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the position description for Bi-County Juvenile Director as presented, and to temporarily reclassify the position of Juvenile Director to Bi-County Juvenile Director effective March 1st, 2021 through March 1st, 2022. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then the second motion I would need is just to approve the salary schedule so Ellen knows what to pay her.
I move to approve the salary schedule for the Bi-County Juvenile Director position as presented, and to direct the Chief of Staff to incorporate the position into the salary schedule for represented employees.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the salary schedule for the Bi-County Juvenile Director position as presented, and to direct the Chief of Staff to incorporate the position into the salary schedule for represented employees. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this next one is just housekeeping. When we were looking at the Bi-County Juvenile Director position description, we were basing that off of Amy's current Juvenile Director position, and just decided that we might go ahead and make some updates to it. So the things that are changed in here, we've been moving you'll notice at the top it says type, and in the draft it says regular full-time, and the other ones they would normally list a specific hour, like 37 and a half or 40. One of the reasons that we're trying to change those over is to make them more evergreen. If you remember in the CBA, we're allowing employees who are currently 37 and a half to move up to 40 if the court agrees and they are in agreement. And so this just gives some flexibility so that we don't have to go back and revise the salary or the job description every time an employee wants to make the jump up. So anytime we bring one of these up, I'm just kind of changing that. The supervision received, we just updated that to make clear sort of the chain of command. And then I'm trying to remember the other one. We increased the minimum qualifications. I think originally, I don't have the original in front of me, but the bachelor's degree and 3 years experience is sort of the industry standard. And so we upped that. Amy already does have that qualification, so that wouldn't disqualify her in any way. And the other thing we added was development. I'm trying to remember which one that was. Yeah, one of the bullet points under essential functions, we added the word development because it felt like it better captured what Amy's actually up to. So all this to say, very minor things just to make sure that we're doing industry standards on qualifications and stuff like that. Questions about that?
I don't have any. I move to approve the revised juvenile director position description as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the revised juvenile director position description as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's see. Consider approval of resolution number R 2021-13, a resolution approving the sale of a 2017 Dodge Grand Caravan to Wheeler County. So this is a Gilliam County transportation vehicle. It's a Dodge Grand Caravan minivan. It has just over 20,000 miles on it. Excellent condition. Pretty high Kelly Blue Book value, so it would not qualify for just a surplus and sell under ODOT's guidelines. But Lisa has been talking to, it's not used. It's the our passengers and our drivers both prefer to use different vehicles, and that's a big reason why it's only got 20,000 miles on it. And so Lisa had reached out to ODOT to see what our options were for it, to just sort of get our fleet right-sized. And because it hasn't met sort of its useful life, we're, as I mentioned, not able to just surplus it. And so ODOT said that Wheeler County would be eligible to receive it. Their transportation program could buy it from us, and that would still keep everybody in compliance. Is that, I'm
Pretty
getting it
much, she
right?
put out kind of like a informational to several neighbouring counties, asking if they had interest, and Wheeler County raised its hand. They already have some of the same vehicle in their fleet, and they really like it.
Should they use it for a garbage truck? They're looking for one.
Don't think it's gonna be that.
So they've already taken it to their county court to get approval for purchase at $24,000, and their county court approved it, and so I have them kind of on hold, waiting for the outcome of our county court.
Sounds like a plan to me.
I move to approve the resolution number R 2021-13 as presented.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution number R 2021-13 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next one. This is discuss Association of Oregon Counties and Oregon Judicial Department Court Facilities Task Force participation. I'm assuming you guys were on this email from Rob Bovett from AOC, AOC's legal counsel, basically describing a task force that is about to spin up regarding court facilities in the state. And just for sort of reference for members of the public and people who aren't familiar, AOC, because there are so many counties with aging courthouses, rather than having the counties go to the legislature independently asking for money to upgrade their courthouses and basically competing with each other, AOC, together with Oregon Judicial Department, tries to get the counties around the table to prioritize who should go next in the state funding to upgrade their court facilities. And so they are starting that process now for the upcoming biennium to figure out which counties are next in the queue. And in Rob's email out to all the county commissioners of the state, it provided a list of the current counties who have had facilities assessments that show that their facilities are lacking. Let's just say that. And we are on that list. So the reason I'm bringing this up is I wanted to get a sense from you all on the appetite for participating in this task force, and to kick off a discussion on where we would like to see potentially any improvements either made to existing facilities, if there's need of new facilities, sort of getting that ball rolling, so that if we are participating in the task force, we know what we're asking for our prioritizations. So yeah, and I know Gary has some thoughts on this as well. I don't know if you want to kick off some ideas, or if the commissioners had initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think we need to get in the queue. I think we were kind of low on the on the list like last. But
Well,
if you're ready, when it's your turn, then it happens. Whereas if they come and say it's your turn and we don't have any project in the works, then we're.
Yeah,
we're
I guess
out,
I was
so.
a little confused when I put the list together, because some of this has been done in a lot of the counties, at least in progress, pending. They're further along in the process.
Yeah, because
And
they were
then
up
you
in the
get
queue.
to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 counties that are listed there where we're at the bottom of that list.
Mhm.
It says the lowest ranked, and then in parentheses, most needing improvement courthouses that have not been addressed and are above. So I think when they did the math, I was trying to figure out where we actually sit in the whole state picture,
Low.
because there's 8 there, but there's 11 counties that would be to get to your 36 counties that aren't even listed. I just
Yeah.
trying to figure out what.
I think the other counties have gone in previous bienniums, which is why they're not in here.
Well, and some of them have done their own. Sherman County
Mhm.
That's all that.
did their own thing and.
Yeah,
paid
but
for
they're
their
listed, so
own.
they're one of the counties I counted. Then you get down to 25 counties, then you have these 8. And then there's another 4 or 5 counties on our list. I was just trying to figure out how we're at a place where it says most needing improvement on the courthouses that are left. So they're saying all these above us had more improvements needed than we did, right?
Mhm.
Apparently,
Okay,
Miss Sheriff Benport.
Well, I think if there's an opportunity to get our name on that list, or to maybe lobby to get us up the list, this is a good time to do it. May not gain anything or get anywhere this year, but with the events that have been happening around the state, and Chris talked about the people that came to visit. And we've been talking a long time about our safety in this building. And I think it comes down to employee safety and efficiency of the facility, both. But so we've been trying to get ballards around the building so people couldn't drive into the downstairs folks. But then if you look at the overall safety, the downstairs folks are safer than the upstairs, because up here, there's no way out of an office.
Mhm.
You're trapped.
Yeah.
And in every single room in this building, you're trapped in it if something happens. So, and then as far as efficiency goes, I've been kind of thrown out there to replace the windows for several years.
Mhm.
And then every year at our court security budget meeting, I'm talking about redoing this room. This room is very unsafe for the things that we deal with in here. You know, most cases aren't that high level, but we do have those. You've got, you know, the jury completely exposed. The judge really has no safe way out of the room.
Mhm.
This railing doesn't stop anybody.
Mhm.
So I have just been asking for a reconfiguration of this courtroom. Mainly, I think with the doors and stuff, we've made this area is about as secure as we can. However, again, we're on this end of the building and there's only one escape.
Mhm.
That's down that hallway. So,
Out the window.
well, yeah, if you don't
The
mind,
opens window.
if you
the
don't mind
windows open.
jumping.
And our windows. don't open.
Yeah,
You don't think I'll fit?
you can't fit
Says I
through
won't
the,
fit.
no. But we've all had the discussions about it. So there's a lot of need in the way of efficiency and safety. But
Yeah.
priority for me is safety. We are charged with court security, which encompasses the whole building. I also feel that there needs to be a better security mechanism on our office doors throughout the building. And with all of that and the need for more room as we serve more people of the public and have more happening in the county, you know, I don't know what these dollars encompass and what they include, but we did recently have the Marshal Service do an assessment of the building just for the court aspect of things, and we're not very good. We're not very safe. So I would ask that that we look at those and retrofit our existing building, or do an add-on and do something similar to what Sherman County did. Whether that is leave, the justice portion of the county in this building, and move everybody to, an addition, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah, the couple of things that I wanted to know. One, if you've ever been in this courtroom during a dependency hearing where mom and dad and kids and attorneys and the state are all in here, often mom and dad are not getting along, which is why they're ending up in dependency anyway. There's some dysfunction, and they are literally sitting right next to each other. And Amy often has to sit with her back to them, which is a little scary sometimes when you're talking potentially about the state taking kids, because that's why we're usually in the room. So to Gary's point about the reconfiguration, you can see that very plainly when you're sitting in one of those hearings, as well as I think criminal trials, when you literally have the defendant sitting a couple of feet away from folks who are making a decision about their fate. So
we've had to reverse the courtroom and put the prosecutor near the jury as opposed to the defendant with the jury. So
it just, that for me, I mean, the courtroom itself, especially I think because of the jury box taking up as much space as it does, really limits how we can configure the courtroom to kind of meet the court's needs. And I've noticed that. The other thing I noticed when we did have those visitors a couple of weeks ago, it really brought home that the way that this courthouse is configured, you have to go to the middle to get out. So if we ever had an active shooter situation in here, our staff really don't have a way out. There is no way out.
They have that term, fight or flight. You don't really have the option of flight if you're on the upper story. So it's hide and fight, I guess, hide or fight.
Yeah. Because of the way the staircases are configured, everybody has to funnel to the middle of the building to get out, which is a problem for fires. It's a problem for active shooters. It's a problem for all kinds of reasons. So I just those are two things that I've just noticed from working in the building. And then the other thing I would sort of throw out is, if you have been to the Sherman County Justice Wing, you really, the way that they designed that, I think for me really hammered home how unsecure this building is versus how, and they've structured it so that their staff have back doors that they can come in. The jury can exit out the back door. They don't necessarily have to face a defendant who may be waiting for them in a parking lot who is unhappy with the decision that a judge has just made or whatever. We don't provide any of that on our end. And, we live in a small county, and I think we take for granted that things are always going to be safe and people are going to make good choices. And all I will say is, usually when you see an incident on TV, people always say, I never thought it could happen here. And so I think we would be foolish to always assume that our small size protects us from people making.
I'd be rather be well ahead as opposed to. Yes.
So I am just throwing that out there that
Do you have anything on the emergency management side of things? I mean, she's been in the building for 28 years, so.
No, I think it's a no-brainer that
We need to put our name in
get
and
our name in the hat and see where this takes us.
Yeah, and I
make
think
a plan.
really too, I'm here to lobby you to maybe make some of those steps now. This may never, AOC may never.
Right, we may never come up the ladder, but we still need to do it.
Right.
So what I'm thinking perhaps we might want to consider is whether we want, I think the way that Sherman County did this when they were looking at their facilities was they put together a task force that included several users of the building, because Gary's going to come at it a different perspective than say Ellen or Chet or me, or, and we're all going to have our own sort of points of view on what we're responsible for. And they sort of started to work together on recommendations for what, because even if we looked at say a justice wing, there are still improvements that I think we
Yeah.
need to make to
Yeah, we
this
still have to
building.
fix the problems here, yeah.
Exactly. And so sort of identifying what those things are. And some of them are probably small enough chunks that we can incorporate those into the budget every year. We can bite off fixing the windows kind of thing. If we're looking at a bigger, like creating the justice wing kind of thing, then that might be something that takes more planning and that we want to get on this list for, because they're going to prioritize us with.
Yeah,
all
I think
the
we can
counties.
refigure this courtroom, and I don't know how much of this area we can encompass, but I would like to just kind of gut everything in this area and redo it if we're just gonna continue to use this facility. There's a lot of things we can do, and there's a lot of court security money we can use, but obviously a change to the building requires your okay to do that, so.
So would you, as a next step, how about, are you guys open to the idea of maybe putting together an internal group that starts to look
Yeah.
at this stuff
That's a good plan.
and sort of I think we could probably rope Jeff Schott as part of this discussion too, because he can give us a sense of what we're looking at for different, how much the windows are going to cost, and whether that's something we can just handle in-house, not include as part of the task force.
And we already have some studies done, assessments done that could be useful.
Do you want to do that before you even find out if you've been accepted to the program, or do you want to get accepted to the program first?
So I think they're
What do we
allowing
do
us
then?
all to come to the table regardless.
Yeah.
So I think we would say to Rob, to AOC, hey, we do want to be at the meetings. And then if it turns out that we're not ready this biennium, I think we would still probably benefit from participating in the conversation and understanding how the process works. And then, so it may not be until the next biennium that we're actually getting a project slated, but who knows? Depending on if these other counties are getting in line and raising their hands. I mean, one of them's like Wheeler County. I'm not sure if they're have any appetite for, now that they have the Birch building, if they're feeling like they need to do anything with the courthouse. I don't know. So how about this? Maybe Gary and I can put our heads together and figure out who should maybe be on this group. And then come back to the court at an upcoming meeting with some recommendations on how to structure that. And then I'm assuming, Gary, you want to be part of the
Oh, sure.
group. While you're here, I'm going to get your commitment.
We want you to.
But we can figure out who else in the building maybe should be part of that discussion. I'm assuming we might want to loop in like the circuit court administrator and a few other key users of the building to make sure they have input from the beginning. So, okay, I will come back with a list of who we think should be part of that group, and then we can kind of move forward on a process of what that will look like. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then I'll also circle back with Rob Bovette and let him know that we are interested. We would like to continue receiving the meeting notices for that piece.
Yes.
And we can maybe figure out between the three of us if you want me to necessarily go to all of those, or if you guys have an interest in sitting in, and happy to share that too. Okay, let's go on to, well, first of all, how are we doing on, does anybody need breaks?
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of coffee drinkers here. Okay, let's take a break. Let's reconvene at 11:30. It's about 7 minutes, and stretch and just take a little break, and then we'll come back. Okay, it is 11:32 and we are back in session. We're going to go on to 6.9, which is consider approval of bid from Carla McLean Consulting for planning consulting services related to the Arlington Industrial Park. Michelle, do you want to come up and talk?
No, but she will.
Sure.
I think she's already done that part.
That's not wheels.
There we go.
So it's not Arlington Industrial Park. It's an area outside of Arlington that is zoned industrial. It's off of Highway 19. For those that are familiar, it's where the Quonset hut is and up the hill, and there's several homes in that area. And so the concept would be similar to what we did here north of Cottonwood on the city of Condon.
to consider rezoning and moving it to rural residential. Throughout the last 40 years, liberties or interpretations have been taken in this particular area, and it's become housing, not industrial. So it creates a conflict. It creates non-conforming uses, all those same issues that we had here with the area outside of Condon. So it's trying to clean up some of the stuff incrementally. We're just kind of trying to do that through the county, and this is one of the next areas. We would not force anyone to rezone, but those with houses would benefit from it because they are not doing industrial uses. So we received 2 proposals. Carlos came in with the lowest bid, and both people are good, both entities. And so I just recommend to the county court to take the lowest one at this point in time and move forward.
So there are many farms is
Yep.
what they are. So is that being taken into consideration for how the zoning will look? And
So the county court, just as of recently in this last year, has adopted 2 different rural residential zones. All of the current 3 residential zones do allow animals and barns and kind of that mini ranchette. So yes, if it doesn't fit, if this particular area doesn't fit one of those 3 zones, which I would anticipate it will, we will probably come up with a new zone for rural residential. But we hope it would fit in one of those 3, and all 3 do currently allow animals.
right. Okay.
And
I
I-
asked Michelle this morning if the property along the edge of Highway 19, if the Quonset hut was going to be rezoned too, because it is industrial and really, we probably need some industrial in there. It's available and it's not part of what's being considered in this. And so it does leave that stuff right on 19 as industrial,
it's-
which I think is important too.
So it's more from Holden Lane to Ray
Well, it's more up the
Road
hill.
and up.
Correct. The Quonset, if the landowner or the Quonset hut wants to rezone, we're not going to prevent them from rezoning. They have the same opportunity as everyone in this area. They just actually have a Quonset hut, which could be industrial and used for industrial. No one else has any industrial uses in that area, except for I think right to the north is Devon, and those uses would stay. They're currently in the correct zone. They're doing industrial uses. We would not mess with those. But that Quonset hut, that's up to the landowner if they want to pursue trying to do something with rural residential, or just keep it as is, as a potential for industrial growth down there.
This is to clean up some of those napkins that we always just clean out.
Yeah, just incrementally, we'll just keep doing that.
Houses that are there and that property up around those.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
And I will say, I mean, Carla did the last, the planning action that we just took earlier in the meeting, and I was very impressed with her. I mean, she's coming from Morrow County with a lot of experience, so I think,
Michelle and I had that discussion.
yeah, I was very pleased with her, so I feel like she would do a great job. In addition to being the low bid, I think we would be well served from her expertise.
I concur.
Is there a motion on the bid?
I move to accept the bid from Carl McLean Consulting LLC for land use consulting services not to exceed $10,000, and to authorize the county judge in consultation with legal counsel to execute a personal services agreement reflecting the same.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from Carla McLean Consulting LLC for land use consulting services not to exceed $10,000, and to authorize the county judge in consultation with legal counsel to execute a personal services agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We will keep you in the loop. It will be coming to you.
All right. So Michelle, on that particular
Yes.
one, you and I will want to work together to put probably a very similar personal services agreement to what we did for
The ODOT one.
the ODOT one. So
Sounds great.
just put that on your to-do.
Okay.
That we can circle back and get legal counsel to review that.
Sounds
for us.
great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's go on to 6.10. Consider approval of Chief of Staff / Director of Human Services hiring procedure, revised position description and salary schedule. So, in case you didn't hear in the courtroom, Lisa has given us a written notice that she is moving on. So she will be leaving Gilliam County later this week. Before we get into the conversation, I just want to say how much I've appreciated working with you.
Thank you. Likewise.
And contributions. I will say that we told staff, I want to put on the record, because I think people feel like this is sort of a last minute thing, that I knew about this last week, but most of our staff was out for the holidays. And so out of respect to them, I wanted to provide them an opportunity to hear that from Lisa. And so it may appear to the outside that, oh, this is last minute and she's giving us notice and walking out the door. She provided adequate notice to me, but we had several staff members who were enjoying the holidays and wanted to give them an opportunity to hear it directly from her rather than through their email.
So there was some confusion about the drop dead date. I think some of them said the first and some said the 5th.
Yeah, so because her schedule, she works on Monday through Thursday. So technically like if we had an emergency and I needed her to do something on Saturday, she would still be available to do that. But her work schedule is Monday through Thursday. So, so the final quote unquote day would be tomorrow, the 2nd, that's scheduled unless we have something that comes up between then and the 5th. And then she and I discussed her actually working remotely on Thursday. So the last time that she will be in the building is today, but she will still be helping to do the transition and get documents over and all that kind of stuff that we need to do the transition tomorrow as well.
So when does the surrendering of the county equipment happen, and how does that happen?
So
that's a big part of severing the employment, is to be sure that all the equipment is returned.
yeah, so some of those things can happen today. So like her key card, things like that, visa, those things can come in because I'm not anticipating you have any visa stuff that are coming. In terms of the computer equipment, cell phone, I think that's going to depend on the discussion under 6.11 on whether we're going to entertain her continuing to provide consulting services on a very temporary basis to get transportation through. And if not, if we decide not to do that, then I would anticipate getting that equipment from her.
The cell phones will be terminated.
Yeah. On her last day. And then if we decided to move forward with a consulting agreement, then I think we'd need to figure out if we would allow her to continue to use that equipment throughout the duration of the consulting agreement, and then turn it in, at the conclusion of that. So it depends on what we decide for 6.11. So with that, I know that Mr. Rourke has already weighed in on wanting us to slow down on the process. I just want to state for the record that I put this on here so that we had a starting point to talk about what the next chapter looks like. So it looks prescriptive, but I needed to put something down on paper so that we have something to talk about.
So I'd like to talk about it.
Absolutely.
So I think this is an opportunity for us to review what the chief of staff position looked like and how it functioned and how HR functioned within that, as the chief of staff being a supervisor of employees as well as being the HR person. I think we need to really analyze whether that worked or not, because I don't feel that it was an advantage to our employees, and that we should really talk some more about what the job description is. I know that you made some changes based on what, your relationship with Lisa and how the job functioned, and I appreciate that, but I think we need to do some more. We need to talk about it some more and see what other changes we might be interested in making. And I'd like to have some input in that.
Mhm.
And I didn't get any input in that in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particular schedule.
Yeah, I would like to see some brakes applied to really analyze a number of things that are going on right now currently within the Gilliam County system. And I think HR needs to be completely separated from that position, or it needs to be out of the building with the consultant.
Yes.
And I'm not going to change that opinion. That's where I really am with it. But that being said, we have some things going on in our system here right now with the dispatch or the director position for transportation. We have an IT issue, which is another responsibility of area on what we're going to do with that part of it. And then the chief of staff and the HR director. So I think we need to figure out how we're going to sit down and talk and formulate what's going to look best going forward. I mean, I read the letters, I heard you read the letters from the employees, but believe me, it doesn't weigh against the phone calls and the communications I've had in the last 20 hours, including driving up here today. I do know that even on the transportation director side of things, which is in the next conversation, that the board of the transportation would like to get involved in some of what's going on with that department. So that being said, let's slow down and let's figure out what we really need and put our heads together and work our way through that.
So what does that look like
I think
from a practical standpoint in terms of identifying? Is that sitting down and doing, having the elected officials sit down and talk about what they see from a management perspective, needs for HR versus, is that having employees talk about how that experience worked? So you know me, I'm process oriented in what's next step. So what do you guys see as next step in order
I think we're gonna have
to?
to form some sort of a committee to work through the whole discussion. And I'm not so sure we shouldn't have some community members on it, because I've had a lot of community member concerns and phone calls. And including employees. So, I mean, it's how do we encompass a group that kind of looks at all the
different angles.
Can you characterize the nature of the concerns that people are raising?
Well, I think a lot of the concerns are around HR and supervision under the same
Yes.
position.
Okay.
That's a lot of
Which is
the
my
concern.
biggest concern.
There's probably, there's definitely been concerns and conversation over how this was structured in the first place and whether it was a good fit. So, all of that's there.
So yeah, I would say that we need to put some interested parties together. We need electeds, we need maybe some employees and some community members to sit down, and we need to do it as quickly as we can. We don't want to take,
It's
you know,
going to
we
take
don't.
some work session probably.
Yeah, but we need to do it in a timely manner. We don't want to say, okay, well, maybe we'll talk about it again next meeting, because we need to start the process, because the hole, there's going to be a big hole, and we need to fill it as soon as we can, because that's a lot of pressure on Teresa. And be taking on a lot of things, you know, just administratively, and you as well. So yeah, we need to make a move as soon as we can, and make some good decisions and make this work for everybody.
I don't know that part of the concerns that came today, and it just got realized, did you look at the agenda and see what that looked like? Because
What does that mean?
and basically what I'm saying is it looked like Lisa was leaving and was going to turn around and be a consultant long-term for transportation. Just look, that is part of the concern and phone calls and stuff came on, which once you open the meeting packet, you can see what the reality is that's going on there, and that, you know, we can talk about whether that makes sense or doesn't, but
Yeah.
there was some concerns along those lines, but the perception was.
And I get that. I mean, I will just say, I have, the public frequently has misperceptions about what we are doing in this building.
Oh, yeah.
And I am not responsible for those misperceptions. If people choose not to communicate or read the publicly available packet material that is sitting on the website that is explaining why we're making the recommendations we're making, That is up to them.
That is true. There's always something about perception. So that being said, 6.1, we want to pull back the reins on that.
Okay.
And put in place a group that's going to analyze what we feel like is going to best serve the county and the building and the employees and.
Okay, and so for scope, so I can kind of think about who should be part of the discussion. The group is going to be tasked with really looking specifically at staffing for the county court and the HR function.
Yes.
Because Pat had sort of alluded, we have some other positions that are
Well, I
kind of up
think
in
you
the air,
have to
but
look, the discussion probably should be around somewhat is, for instance, Lisa's been doing HR, chief of staff, director of transportation for how many months? What do we really need here? And we know that position's open. Is there some of this stuff that can be combined into one position? I don't know. Because I'm not internally in the building all the time and I don't know all the functions of all the positions, but and now we definitely know that we're going to have some, I don't even want to call them IT functions because it's more data entry or
The website.
upgrading the website and those kind of functions we're going to have to pass off. So there's other things that could be part of the conversation when you put together positions on how you want those to look and what those responsibilities are.
For efficiency.
Mhm. Okay. So I think for next steps, I can come back with some ideas on how this might be structured, maybe get some feedback from the electives on what they would recommend. Because frankly, on the HR stuff, it's them that is going to be dealing with that.
Well, I don't want to take it lightly either. It's really, really important.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it sound like that because it's an important function.
Yeah. Yes. The one thing I do want us to be mindful of is opening up the door to allowing the public, allowing misperceptions to dictate how we make personnel decisions. I would just be very careful about, because there are functions that happen in this courthouse that, even as you guys alluded to, you might not even be aware of because you're not in the building running it day to day. And so opening it up to folks who really have no idea how county government works other than the rumor mills that are happening outside of it, I just want to be mindful that I think we need to be careful about precedents that we set.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I will come back after some consultations with the electives to see what they recommend on who maybe should be around that table. And then we can sort of set up a process, I think, to that we can maybe lay out and see if I hit the mark for the next meeting, kind of what you're thinking. Do keep in mind, the same time we're doing this, we are also doing a public health transition and some other major housing, fiber are all happening simultaneously. Okay,
I would like to say that I don't think we should eliminate public opinion on stuff like this, because I think we have people in the public that are very well capable of helping work through a process and it's all about putting ideas on the table and working through the ideas. And I hate to see us limit how we access those ideas.
duly noted. Okay, 611, consider approval of bid from Lisa Atkin for management consulting services related to Gilliam County transportation operations. So when Lisa submitted her notification that she would be leaving, knowing that we, in transportation in particular, Our current staff is out on maternity leave. So we have a temp filling in on the dispatch side, but don't really have a permanent employee that's in the office until March. Lisa and I were talking about continuity of services because ODOT is our primary funder. We have grant agreements with them that require us to be transparent about how we're spending money, and those reports will be due during the period when Naya is out on maternity leave. And so I will just state that my expectation is that Naya, if you're listening to this, you are not going to come back early for this. You are entitled by federal law to be able to take your leave. So with that in mind, Lisa had offered, if we felt like it was needed, that she would be willing to provide some hours to help us sort of meet ODOT's expectations as our funder for this particular program. There are quarterly reports that there will be one that for the final quarter of this year that will be due in 45 days after the close of the quarter.
45 days, yeah.
So would be due by mid-February at the latest. The Naya is not scheduled to come back until early to mid-March. So there's that one in particular. And then the other piece of that is making sure that when Naya comes back, that she has the training she needs to be successful. And so currently there is only one person that knows that reporting system, and that is Lisa. So that is why this proposal is before you, because there are a lot of people that depend on this transportation system. I do not want to jeopardize our funding stream from an important funder by violating our contracts and not getting our reports in on time. And to me, spending up to $5,000 in order to maintain compliance with one of our most important funders and one of the systems that, frankly, aside from the road department, is the single one that I hear the most about in the community as valuing, I think is a reasonable amount to pay.
So one of the comments I heard yesterday is that we don't have any drivers anymore because we got no volunteers. Is there any truth behind that?
We have volunteers.
Huh? I just, it was,
We have 5 volunteer drivers at the moment, sometimes 6,
Okay.
depending on health and personal needs. And then we have 2 paid drivers at the moment, and also a dispatch or temporary
so the
dispatcher
service
built
is
in.
really pretty well in place.
Yes, I mean, one of the challenges, obviously, that we had with the pandemic is we have elderly drivers. They did not want during a pandemic, but especially before the vaccine, to be in enclosed vehicles with people who may be carrying the virus, which I think is a reasonable thing. If you're, when I think our average age of our drivers is what, 65 plus, 70, who are right in that high risk category that they were being told to stay home. So there were, I think, a lot of folks who opted not to be a volunteer based on circumstances that were wholly out of the transportation staff's control.
So one thing that I would feel more comfortable about is if the board would convene and Lisa lay out what's going on, educate the board on what's going on. They get to be part of the decision and make a recommendation to us. I mean, they're kind of, I mean, I don't know. I just think that leaving them out of the loop on what they're doing is not a good.
I mean, can I just state for the record, the transportation department has tried to convene them twice. They are not responding to their emails. They scheduled a meeting and nobody showed up to it.
Well,
So I can appreciate that they're calling you now upset about a situation, but they had an opportunity to be part of the discussion and they opted out of it. So
I don't know, the communications I got this morning was they had not been convened at the meeting, so.
Can I address that? Because this time of year, I'm putting together the notices for the paper for all of the committees that are coming available. And they have been notified. Everyone that serves on that board right now has been notified, and we have gotten 0 responses from anybody. And this week, I have another notice for the judge to approve to go into the paper to fill the STIF, the statewide transportation, whatever. And so, and speaking to that with people, community people being involved. I put 3 notices in the paper last week for the compensation committee, the budget committee, and the cultural coalition. Crickets. I have gotten absolutely nothing from anybody in the community that is willing to provide their expertise.
So
So it's really frustrating this time of year to try and get everybody on these committees.
So I mean, I appreciate that now that there's a controversy, people want to be at the table, but literally,
That's what happens.
literally when we sent out a letter to them saying, do you even want to serve? They did not respond.
So also to be fair, Commissioner Sharon, every single person on the Stiff Advisory Commission's term has long expired. So if we need to know they want to re-engage, so Teresa can take care of the terms and the postings around that. That would be a primary.
And before the transition happened last summer, for lack of a better term, the previous director of transportation and I had been working from the previous year to try and get people to say, yes, I will serve on this board. So
And she couldn't get their commitment.
It started a year and a half ago. Yeah. So anyway.
So I'm just saying it's hard to get them involved with a decision like this if they do not even respond that they're willing to serve on the committee.
Don, did you have something you wanted to say?
If I may,
Yeah.
I was a member of the Gilliam County Transportation Board for years. The reason none of the board members are replying to this, because our position as board members are made superfluous by the actions that were taken without any input from us. We felt there was no reason to. Everything was taken away. All the decisions were made not with Marla involved, but just between the other option that was out there. So why would we even think about being on a board where we were useless? Also, I don't know if it was communicated to you, but not Social Security. Filed this unemployment claim for the 3rd time when she went back. It's been approved for her. It was found she had no misconduct in being let go. And the wording was that Gilliam County had been extremely unprofessional in letting her go. So I don't think someone should be rewarded for that. And that is the issue why the board is not interested in participating. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
So what's on the table is 6.11, which is accepting Lisa's bid for consulting services.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand how important these things are, the grants and the reporting. And I know that the employees in transportation right now don't feel they have the ability to do these things. So we do need someone to do them for us. My problem is, and our conversation on the last agenda item was, when does the equipment get returned? And you indicated that if we approved this, that she would keep her county equipment. And I've never seen in my years a consultant who is provided equipment to do that consulting. And so I really would not approve any county equipment leaving with a terminated employee, whether it was terminated on our terms or their terms or retirement or in any way. That just isn't how it's done. So whether we accept that Lisa's going to do these things, if she's a consultant, then she would have to provide her own equipment. We wouldn't provide equipment for her. And I understand where these programs are,
Mm-hmm.
but again, that doesn't work for me. I just, you don't give somebody sign off on their termination of employment and then say, well, here, go ahead and take our equipment and
So would
do what you'd like
you
with it.
want to technically keep her on the payroll?
No,
What?
Keep her on the payroll? Because here's the challenge, guys. Our system is designed to not allow outside computers to connect to it,
I understand that.
right?
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. So what you are asking is for her to use a personal computer that we can't secure to perform Gilliam County work on behalf of Gilliam County. There's no way for her to access the documents that are sitting on our servers from an outside computer that she needs to actually do the reporting.
But you're asking us to allow someone who has terminated their employment to take county equipment wherever they go. And so to me, that's a breach of our security of our system that you just described, which is no one else can access it. So we have no control over what a non-employee is doing with that equipment.
I'd like to hear from Nathan.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Could you come up so we can hear you,
Sure.
please?
And currently treasurer's office does some reporting for some of the departments, and a lot of those are external websites anyway. So she'd really just need, you can send her PDFs maybe of the data or something along those lines. I don't know that particular system, but, so I don't know if she really needs a county machine to do the reporting, but maybe.
Maybe breaks on this too, and we talk to neighboring counties and maybe we
Sure.
can even get assistance with that part of it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I don't know how much work it really is, but if it was minimal amounts, I mean, I'd be willing to take it on too, if need be. I mean, I ultimately just want Gilliam County to be successful and provide services. We've, put our hat in the ring with agreements to do, so. Whatever works for everybody else.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Okay, so am I hearing that the preference of the court would be to not take action on the bid? Would you like me to go talk to other counties?
Yeah, I think
And
we should.
see?
I think we should, and particularly probably Morrow County.
I think there's a different solution to, I mean, I know Lisa has the expertise and the knowledge and the ability to do this. I just don't feel like we give a consultant who's no longer employed access to our system outside the building. Now, if she was to come here and perform those as a consultant and, be allowed to log in as a temporary employee. I know when I quit a job and came back I came back as a temporary employee with temporary sign-in that allowed me to access the files I needed to access to do the work I needed to do. But I was not allowed to, because I was a field HR and, I with my original login, I could get into all of that as well, which, when I wasn't an employee anymore, I didn't have that access and I shouldn't have because those are security reasons.
But am I correct that they gave you a temporary employee status?
I was a
In
temporary employee with a temporary login that could only do certain functions.
Well, you were hired through temp service.
Yes.
So is there a reason that we would not entertain doing a similar arrangement with Lisa?
No, I think that
Well,
would
I
work. My
I
big
still think
headache
we have
is,
some community issues from constituents on why we have a board that feels the way they feel.
but right now, the issue is these things need to be done in order to make our transportation department function the way it should function.
Absolutely.
And so we need to visualize how this happens. And And yes, we did. So yes, we need to do some more research. Again, I know that you were aware that Lisa was leaving, but I found out Monday afternoon. And so for me, having to think about, how do we proceed with this, feels like it's just been, here, make a big decision in a little tiny amount of time. So that's where I stand on this.
Okay. So based on that, I still need some direction on what you would like to see next. Do you want to just give it to Nathan?
I don't have a problem with that.
You want to?
If Nathan's willing to take it on, I would be more than happy to give it to Nathan, because I know that he would do everything he could to make it happen.
Sold.
That's the kind of person he
Just for a
is.
short period of time.
Shouldn't have raised your hand.
Just until Nia gets back and takes over.
Well, I mean, it's extreme circumstance.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
It is, but it puts us
Somebody
in a
with
bad
small children,
position.
Liz can attest to this, it's a big life change,
Mhm.
so. I'm sympathetic to that as much as anyone else. And I come from a county background, like I don't understand any of this. Basically, as soon as somebody quit, we walked them out. It didn't matter if they gave us 2 weeks or anything else, so I don't understand this discussion at all. And it has nothing to do with Lisa at all.
That's just the policy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't, it's a different world for me, I'm sorry.
I agree.
Okay, well, it sounds like we have a volunteer. So I think we'll need to figure out what I will do is I will connect you with the lady at ODOT, who is Lisa's main contact. And then I think ODOT will need to figure out how to get you a login and go through that process. So I'll make that connection. Thank you, Nathan, for taking that on.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, anything else on that piece? Let's go on to 6.12, bidding process to include local businesses. Pat.
So I had a phone call yesterday from a local business that was very upset because there has been multiple repairs and replacements done, and it's in the service that he works in, and wondering why he isn't getting the opportunity as a tax-paying member of Gilliam County to bid on those jobs. And I'm saying, I don't know, I don't get that.
I think it would help to understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's pretty vague. How do we know?
Well, I guess we've done some furnace replacements. I was trying not to
No,
pinpoint the business.
I think-
we can do that.
I think we need to put it out there.
Okay. In pinpointing the business, it's about AC and heating stuff that's been done. He was just really upset that he doesn't get a chance just to bid on those jobs. And I'm assuming a furnace replacement is going to be in the thousands of dollars. And I guess we've done one fairly recently.
I will say that we, on our heating furnace, we try to use local because that makes the most sense. When we receive prompt replies to our request to come fix, we are more than willing, because it's usually on an emergency basis. It's usually we're in the dead of winter and half the offices suddenly don't have heat and we need those fixed, or the reverse, it's summer and the AC is not working in the server room and other places. We call local for that. If they are unresponsive, then we have no choice but to go out. So out of town, because I can't have staff coming into unheated offices or way too hot offices. So if that particular business has a concern, I would encourage them to come talk to me, because usually what's happening is when we're authorizing those things, they're usually on an emergency basis, which is why they're not coming before the court, because it's literally somebody walking in saying, my office is 30 degrees and I need this fixed. And so I usually then at that point say, Daryl, go call Jameson and Marshall and have them come fix it. And if it's not them, then we have to call out elsewhere.
Well, just need a response back. So I will make that suggestion.
Yeah. When we don't use local, and I'm looking at the electeds who are sitting in the back who have been here a lot longer than I am. When we don't use local, it's because we don't have the option.
It's been non-response. And the
I get it.
local has come through in emergencies. Big time.
Yeah, that is not to disparage
Big time.
the
Water
local.
boilers out,
They are,
So basically, you can say that we have not known that we were gonna replace a furnace in 2 weeks or a month or whatever, and left them out of that opportunity to price that job. It's been an emergency situation.
yes.
It's not even.
I mean, I understand that. I'm just,
Yeah,
I got the call. Okay.
yeah,
And we need a response.
yes. Anything else on that one? Yeah, if it's a longer term where we're planning like, hey, the boiler needs replaced and we
Right.
know that that's a capital, then we put that on a more formal bid. Most of what we're dealing with is literally the heating unit is not working today.
And it's not, even that isn't even a bidding process. That's a,
Well,
Some of it-
We need help.
a furnace replacement is a big item. It's an emergency furnace replacement and somebody's got one and can be there today. That's a different issue than if you got to order it or don't show up to find out or what.
or it's a
different
capital
issue.
project and
Yeah.
it's out there for bid.
I mean, I get it. I understand. I would have concerns if we weren't offering those types of jobs out to our local tax-paying businesses.
Duly noted. I'm in agreement.
Okay.
I would prefer to use
Good.
local too. It's more convenient. Okay, anything else on that piece?
No.
Okay, let's go into 7.0 announcements and next meeting. Next meeting is scheduled for December 15th, 2021. Let me see if there's anything else we have sort of pending on the calendar.
Housing meeting.
Oh, yes. So you will recall that when we did our last housing meeting, Kaylin Lane had raised her hand about convening business community to talk about housing needs and try to get our arms wrapped around. That is now scheduled for the 7th. That will be here in Condon at the chamber office. Is that correct? In the evening. So there's posters all over the community about them. I think Leah's nodding her head. So the sense that she's been reached out to and Kaylin's been busy reaching out to her
I'm planning on
employers.
attending.
Is that something we would have to
Notice
notice
if
if we were all there, or is it just a community meeting that we could go and not talk to each other?
I think it is a community meeting. It is not being convened by us. It is not our meeting.
Okay,
To clarify that, Teresa has been providing some support to Kaylin, but it is not our meeting. So here's notice, because I know Les will be curious about this. Here's notice that there may be a quorum of the court there. However, we will not be making decisions. It is not our meeting. We are participating as interested community members. For the record, in case there's any question about that.
And
Any
I'm
other
going to-
meetings?
I was gonna reach out to Caitlin and have her send a reminder to a lot of the locals that originally went out, that email went out a few weeks ago. So I'll work with her that we can send it to specific people, again, waste management, the schools, the Main Street businesses, just for a reminder, put it in the front versus the back.
And here's just a shout out to businesses. We really need your input because the city, what they're contemplating is how big to build. So we need feedback on how many of your employees are having trouble finding good housing because that will help. Nathan's nodding as well as I think that this hat on the PCDC board. We're very interested in making sure that that project is the right size. And we can't do that without input from the employers. So, okay, Sherry, what do you got going on?
well, I just was adding something here that I realized I had not put in, on Monday, Business Oregon is having an economic. Yes, so I'm gonna try to do that. And then, we are having Norcor, this month on the 16th. And, we will also be having Capco, but that's not my calendar either. I know it's.
Get it together,
I
Sherry.
know it's one of these days. I think we are anyway. And then we are gonna have our CAC, Citizens Advisory Committee will be meeting as well. And that is the 9th. That's not in here either. It's on my paper calendar.
Oh, Sherry.
I have a paper calendar. It's on there, I know.
Oh,
it is. So, yes, and I think that's, and then upcoming issues that we need to discuss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead. How was
I
AOC?
attended AOC. It was really, really good. A lot of people I had met on Zoom over the past
You got to see the rest of them
11 months.
besides their heads?
I got to sit down and have conversations, and they had some pretty good forums on number of things. Housing was a huge topic. Oregon has done a study, and basically the results of that study show us that if we had all the contractors we needed today, we'd have about half of built what we need built in 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Sad.
it was a big part of the discussion. So had a really good CREA meeting on Tuesday, and so yeah, it was a good experience. Health District meeting with North Central next week, and I think that's all that's on the agenda right now.
And you are a county college graduate now?
Yeah, I got my diploma.
Oh, did you get your diploma?
My
all
little-
framed.
my little blue, whatever.
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, the tassels.
What I do with my
And I-
tassels?
Sherry and I got
my
those
My
too.
hips and back were hurting so bad while I stood up there for about 30 minutes. I thought I was gonna.
You thought you were gonna die?
Like, don't lock my knees. Don't
I
lock my knees.
Get
I
passed
must
out in
be
front of
the
everybody.
oldest graduate here.
No.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I did get to
old
meet
man.
several people, judges and commissioners that are involved in rodeo.
Oh,
Ah,
So
good.
that was
That was
kind of cool.
interesting,
Judge
right?
Joyce has 2 sons that right in Bronxville in Idaho that I have judged before. I
Oh,
did-
cool.
so I met him. He came over to me after the CREA meeting. He said, "Can I ask you a question or two?" I said, "Don't know if we got any answers." He says, "Are you the judge?" And I said, "No, I'm a commissioner." "But you judge rodeos, don't you?"
That isn't the judge he was talking
It's
about.
pretty much the same.
Yeah, it was a really good experience, and glad I went.
Yeah, it is. I miss those connections that we
Yeah.
made. And I ran into Commissioner Lindsay the other day, and
And Commissioner Lindsay was in the River's Edge Deli the other night.
that's where I ran
Oh,
into.
did
Oh,
you?
no, she makes the rounds. She was at the Big River
Oh, Big
Pizza.
River.
So, yeah. I miss seeing that group of ladies,
They have a good time,
Catherine
I'll tell you
Harrington
that.
and,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, she claims she didn't have any fun because we weren't there.
it's
She was a
true.
liar.
Well, not me so much, but you're the fun one. Okay.
Till 7.
As, till 7, yes, and then it's early retirement. Let's see. Well, I don't have any meetings scheduled upcoming currently. So I will be working on all of the things that we discussed today. So that's what
That's a full plate in
that's
itself.
on my agenda.
That's a full plate in itself. That and the health district and.
And yeah, facilities, fiber, housing, just a few projects.
You have a full plate.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Not
I
for me.
don't have anything.
If not, it's 12:22 and I will adjourn the meeting.